Imagine a woman standing in front of a mirror. She is in her 20s or maybe 30s. She has a job she loves or maybe she doesn't. She has dreams, big ones, small ones, messy ones. But whenever she looks at her reflection, there is always an invisible voice that echoes around her. So, when are you having a baby? For some, this is a gentle question. For others, it's a warning, a deadline, a judgment, a demand. And for many, far too many, it becomes a battlefield. Because in India, motherhood isn't just a personal journey, it's a political institution, a site of duty, morality, sacrifice, and social control. Today, on the personal lens, we are asking a question that sounds simple but is in fact revolutionary. Do women really have a choice when it comes to motherhood? And more importantly, who benefits when they don't? So, what is motherhood supposed to mean? Motherhood in Indian society is not just a relationship, it's a moral identity, a gender expectation, a social necessity. A good woman, we are taught, must eventually become a mother. She must want it, she must be ready for it, she must sacrifice for it, she must find fulfillment in it. This is the cultural script of motherhood, and most of us learn it long before we understand our own bodies. In textbooks, advertisements, family conversations, and even religious rituals, the figure of the mother is sacred, pure, selfless, almost mythological. But here's the truth. Hidden beneath all the sentiment, when motherhood becomes sacred, women stop being human. Because anything that is sacred cannot be questioned, and anything that cannot be questioned cannot be chosen. It can only be obeyed. Now, the politics of choice. We often use the word choice casually. Motherhood is your choice. Have a baby when you are ready. But choice is not just personal will, choice has conditions. Economic freedom, reproductive autonomy, access to healthcare, absence of violence, absence of coercion, social acceptance, decision making power within relationships. If even one of these is missing, then what we call choice is actually pressure disguised as freedom. In short, motherhood is not merely emotional, it is structural. Let us talk about marriage in India. In India, marriage is almost synonymous with motherhood. You're not just marrying a partner, you're marrying a timeline. Year 1, enjoy your marriage but don't wait too long. Year 2, any good news? Year 3, you need to consult a doctor. Year 4, your biological clock is ticking. Year 5, be responsible, you're not getting any younger. This timeline doesn't come from nature, it comes from social surveillance. Families feel entitled to intervene. Neighbors feel entitled to comment. Random aunties feel entitled to give spiritual advice. It's not about care, it's about discipline. Women are expected to perform motherhood on schedule. Not too early, that brings shame. Not too late, that brings judgment. And definitely not never, that brings outrage. But what about voluntary childlessness? That's the unforgivable choice. Choosing to not have children. The moment a woman says, motherhood is not for me, the world starts. You are incomplete. You are selfish. You will regret it. You don't understand the meaning of life. You are unnatural. You are not a real woman. The hostility is intense because this choice challenges everything we've been conditioned to believe about gender. A woman who does not want children is dangerous. Not because of her decision, but because of her independence. She is proof that femininity and motherhood are not the same thing. She threatens the social order where women's lives revolve around caregiving, sacrifice, lineage, and family honor. So society responds by punishing her with gossip, with pressure, with shame, with character judgment. Motherhood is supposed to be a duty, not desire. From ancient mythology to modern films, mothers are portrayed as tireless, selfless, limitless in their giving. Think about Bollywood's favorite line, "Maa ke पैरों में जन्नत है." It sounds honorable, but it carries a dangerous implication. A good mother must suffer. A mother's body must be sacrificed. A mother's needs must come last. The glorification of motherhood is not love. It is control. It sets a standard that no human can meet. It forces women to give even when they are exhausted. It turns caregiving into virtue and rest into guilt. And this glorification conveniently hides something else. Motherhood is labor. Physical, emotional, unpaid labor. Labor that holds up families, economies, and entire societies, but is rarely acknowledged, supported, or valued. Now let's move on to the dark side of all this: reproductive control and violence. Let's enter the territory that many prefer to avoid: the violence hidden inside reproductive policies. This includes forced pregnancies, women being pressured or coerced into getting pregnant because family needs an heir; forced infertility, women being pressured not to have more children because of poverty, caste prejudice, or population control campaigns; marital rape and reproductive coercion; sex forced for pregnancy, contraception sabotaged, abortion denied; sex selective pressure, families forcing women to keep getting pregnant until they produce a son or pressuring them to abort female fetuses; state control, policies encouraging ideal family sizes, sterilization targets, or blaming women for population growth; medical coercion, doctors pushing C-sections unnecessarily, pressuring women into tubectomies, blaming women for infertility without evaluating male partners; social punishment, the moral policing of women's choices. And then comes one of the most dangerous tools of reproductive control: social punishment. This is the everyday discipline that women face not through laws or policies, but through judgment, gossip, shaming, and moral policing. Women who choose abortion are branded immoral, irresponsible, unkind, selfish. Their decisions are treated as moral failings, not medical or personal choices. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum is another group of women who face a completely different but equally brutal form of scrutiny: single mothers. Women who become mothers on their own terms, by choice, by circumstance, by survival, but society treats them like they've broken a sacred code. In India, a woman without a husband is already a question mark. A woman without a husband and with a child, now that's a scandal. Suddenly, her entire life becomes a public investigation. How did she become a mother? Who is the father? Why couldn't her marriage last? Is she doing this for attention? Is she capable of raising a child alone? Not once does the question become, what strength must it take for her to do this alone? But single motherhood is not new and it is not rare. It's just heavily policed. Women may become single mothers through divorce, widowhood, abandonment, abuse, adoption, or IVF, and yet the judgment remains the same. Because single motherhood challenges the one structure society cannot imagine a woman stepping outside of: the patriarchal family. How dare a woman live outside the structure designed to control her? Single motherhood is not just a family arrangement. It's a political act in a society that equates womanhood with marriage. For centuries, the family has been the primary institution for controlling women's sexuality, mobility, labor, and reproduction. A woman raising a child without a husband disrupts that entire model. She becomes proof that a woman can provide stability, love, protection, and identity without male guardianship. And that makes society deeply uncomfortable. Single mothers are treated with an odd mixture of pity and suspicion. They are either poor things who deserve sympathy or reckless rebels who deserve social punishment. Let's take the Indian public sphere for example. When Sushmita Sen became a single mother by adopting two girls in her 20s, she wasn't celebrated as a trailblazer. She was interrogated. How can a single woman adopt? What values will she teach? Is she doing this for publicity? Her motherhood was put on trial, not her capabilities, not her dedication, not her love. Even today, single mothers fight bureaucratic hurdles, school admission discrimination, housing restrictions, workplace prejudice, character judgment, and intrusive curiosity disguised as concern. Their choices are interpreted as failures rather than acts of immense courage. And yet, single mothers do what society insists needs a joint household to accomplish. They provide, they protect, they nurture, they shape futures. Isn't that motherhood? And isn't that enough? But here's the irony. Whether a woman cannot become a mother or chooses a non-traditional path to become one or becomes one without a partner, the scrutiny is the same. Because the issue is not motherhood, the issue is control. Single mothers threaten a patriarchal structure that relies on women being dependent. They break the narrative that a woman needs a husband to raise a child. They redefine family, they redefine strength, they redefine freedom, and that society cannot tolerate quietly. But perhaps the most visible example of reproductive policing today comes from public women, celebrities whose private choices are dissected as national debates. When Priyanka Chopra and Nick Jonas welcomed their daughter through surrogacy, the internet erupted. The response wasn't joy, it was suspicion, ridicule, and contempt. People questioned her femininity, her fitness as a mother, and even her intentions. Some accused her of outsourcing motherhood, of being too ambitious to carry a child herself. As if ambition and motherhood must be enemies, as if a woman's worth is tied to how much physical pain she endures to bring a child into the world. The same happened when Gauri Khan had her son Abram through surrogacy. Instead of acceptance, she faced absurd, deeply misogynistic rumors questioning morality and legitimacy because society cannot imagine a woman choosing a path that falls outside the romanticized ideal of biological motherhood. Surrogacy, IVF, adoption, these methods are framed as shortcuts, cheats, or desperate acts. The woman becomes the problem. Her body becomes a public subject open for approval or rejection. Meanwhile, women who give birth naturally through pregnancy and vaginal delivery are celebrated as real mothers. They are applauded for enduring pain, praised for being complete, admired for doing things the right way. It's as if motherhood has become a moral exam and women must score points through suffering, sacrifice, and physical endurance. This glorification of natural birth is not innocent. It implies that motherhood gained through pain is superior to motherhood gained through science, choice, or alternative paths. It reinforces a single message. The legitimacy of a woman's motherhood depends on how closely it matches society's script, not on her love, labor, or intent. And that is why reproductive policies is not just about pregnancy or parenting. It is not just about motherhood. It is about power. Who controls women's bodies? Who controls reproduction? Who decides what is moral? Who benefits? When women's choices are restricted, judged, or punished, and the answer always is those who fear women choosing for themselves. Infertility and the pain nobody talks about. And if society punishes women for the choices they do make, it punishes them even more brutally for the ones they cannot. Let's talk about infertility now, a topic wrapped in silence, shame, and whispered conversations behind closed doors. Infertility is treated in India as a woman's personal failure, a mark against her womanhood. Her marriage, her worth. Never mind the science, never mind that a significant percentage of infertility cases involve men. Never mind that the sperm health is just as crucial as reproductive health. Socially, infertility is feminized. Women carry the blame. Women absorb the shame. Women do the emotional labor quietly, invisibly, relentlessly, and the punishment is not abstract. It is lived. It is intimate. It is cruel. It becomes a slow burning social crisis inside the home, in the neighborhood, within their community, very often resulting in domestic violence, marital breakdown, emotional trauma, and many times exploitation at the hands of fraudulent clinics or quicks because of desperation. Because society insists marriage must produce children to be valid. Now, the mental health toll is immense: anxiety, depression, guilt, loneliness, identity crisis. But it goes unseen, untreated, unnamed even. Infertility becomes not just a medical condition, but a social sentence served quietly, painfully, and almost always alone. And once again, we see the pattern. When something goes wrong in reproduction, women are the first to be blamed and the last to be supported. Now, what about when motherhood is a choice, the radical possibility? So, after all this, after the shame, the scrutiny, the punishment, the silence, let's pause for a moment and imagine something truly radical: a world where motherhood is not just a duty, but a decision, where a woman's worth isn't tethered to her fertility, where her body is not an object of public debate, but her own sovereign space. Imagine a world where women choose motherhood because they desire it, not because society scripts it, not because their in-laws demand it, not because their age is ticking like a countdown bomb, not because it's the natural next step, but because they genuinely want to raise a child. Where a woman's value is never measured by her womb, only by her humanity. Where reproductive decisions are made by women for women, not by priests, uncles, neighbors, lawmakers, doctors, or headlines. Where motherhood is supported, not demanded, with childcare, parental leave, healthcare, and economic recognition instead of pressure, fear, and emotional blackmail. Where abortion is safe, accessible, stigma-free, recognized as healthcare, not a confession. Where infertility is met with compassion, not judgment, seen as a shared human struggle, not a woman's moral deficiency. Where reproductive labor is respected, shared, no longer an invisible burden dumped entirely on women. Where motherhood becomes expansive, not restrictive, be it biological, adoptive, foster, step, blended, every form acknowledged, every path valid. And choosing not to be a mother is treated as a personal choice, not a moral crime, not selfish, not cold, not incomplete, just human. This is not utopia. This is not some fantasy whispered in feminist textbooks. This is a real living possibility. But only if we are brave enough to confront the system that thrives on women's reproductive obedience. A system that profits when women doubt themselves, silence themselves, sacrifice themselves. A system that has survived for centuries because women were told that their bodies and their destinies were not theirs to claim. So the radical question is not, can this world exist? It is, what are we willing to unlearn, undo, and demand to make this real? Because a world where motherhood is a choice is not just a world where women are free. It's a world where society finally recognizes that women have always deserved freedom. And here we are, after walking through the maze of motherhood, its demands, its expectations, its punishments, its silences. We come back to a simple universal truth. A woman's body has never been just her own. It has been a battleground, a measuring tool, a vessel of lineage, a site of honor, a canvas for cultural pride, a container for men's anxieties, and a target for society's morality. For centuries, motherhood has been the tightest leash, wrapped in love, wrapped in duty, wrapped in myth, a role framed as destiny, not decision, an identity assigned at birth, long before the woman herself is allowed to dream. So, motherhood is political because women's freedom is political. Who gets to decide if a woman becomes a mother, or when or how, or whether at all is the axis on which patriarchy spins? And when a woman chooses for herself, when she says yes on her own terms, or no on her own terms, something shifts. Something cracks, something liberating, something dangerous, something revolutionary begins. Because every act of choosing is an act of reclaiming, reclaiming the body, reclaiming time, reclaiming desire, reclaiming possibility. And maybe you're listening to this as a mother, maybe as someone who doesn't want to be one, maybe as someone unsure, maybe as someone healing from the weight of expectations. Maybe as someone still negotiating her place in the world. Wherever you are, your journey is valid. Your questions are valid. Your choices are valid. You don't owe motherhood to anyone. Not to your family, not to your society, not to tradition, not to the nation, not to the idea of womanhood itself. But if you choose motherhood, you deserve support, dignity, autonomy, and shared labor. And if you choose not to, you still deserve respect, freedom, and a life unburdened by judgment. And if you are unable to, you deserve compassion, not blame, care, not cruelty. The future we imagine isn't one where all women make the same choice. It's one where they are allowed to choose differently. A world where reproductive justice is not a privilege but a right. Where motherhood is not a compulsory identity but a meaningful possibility. Where women's bodies are not public property but private sovereignties. And maybe the most radical act of all, a world where we finally trust women to know themselves, to know their lives, to know what it is best for their bodies, their families, their futures. Because when women choose freely, society doesn't fall apart. It evolves. And perhaps that is what they fear most. Thank you so much for listening to The Personal Lens. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and share this conversation. Do leave your thoughts and reflections at the email provided in the description. Until next time, keep questioning, keep unlearning, and keep reclaiming what was always yours. But most importantly, keep looking through the personal lens.